Welcome back to the color correction series for EDIUS 6. This is gonna be awesome. I'm pretty damn excited because, I'm just excited because it looks hot. Well, you be the judge. Anyway, so here's some stills that I took about a year ago of my good mate Jonos 2000. Just hanging out in our local subway like we used to back in the day. So, what we're going to do is, even though these aren't video, right? Okay, so the principles still apply. It's the same principles when you're color grading. Just pretend this was from some cool Hollywood film, and it was lit by, really expensive lights. So what we're going to have a look at now is a reference still from a cool movie called Deja Vu. And this image I just got from Google Images as well, just like the Transformer images before. It's a great resource, Google Images, actually. And you might notice that this still doesn't actually represent the color tone of the film, so to speak. It's more just the poster. But I just thought I'd do a sort of a crazy stylized look, or try to copy one, and do that in EDIUS with you guys. Because, it's to me, that looks really cool. And maybe you could use that in a film, who knows? So let's just jump right into it. So I'm just going to decide which image to work on. Maybe this one. You know what, I'm going to go this one because I really love that backlit beanie there. So yeah, that's what we're going to work with. And our goal is to get it looking like Denzel here. We really want that, I don't know what you would call that, but you can see here he's got like this green on his shirt, but his skin's really warm, but then he's got this green here. It's almost like there's green lights affecting the image. But I doubt that that was the case. It looks more like it was done in post. And what we're going to try and do now is get a similar look. Whenever I start any grade, the first thing I try and do is get my black points and my white points. I want to match the contrast. So we could just use this side by side like this, or we can do a split screen technique where we can match it side by side. I guess it's just easier to really look at the comparison side by side. So the first thing we're going to do is grab a YUV curve, drop that on top of our Only Subway 2 shot, and then we're going to double click the YUV curve, bring that up here so we can see what we're doing. And then we're going to come down to our timeline, click on the reference shot, our hero shot that we want to match, and then we click this lock button and slide our timeline cursor back to our original shot that we're grading, and then finally split the screen. So now we can really see that they don't match. But that's what we want. Okay, so yeah, the first thing I want to do is match the contrast. So let's just jump right into that. I'm just going to push my blacks down and my whites up. So we're going to crush our blacks. And what I'm really looking for here is not the color, remember that. So the first thing I'm looking for are these highlights on Denzel's face, and these shadows around his eyes, and this shadow under his chin. And what I want to do is try and match that. So if you look at the original, or the more of the original is like that, I'm going to bring that down some. I still want to be able to see his eye there, but I want these highlights to really pop. So I really need to push my highlights right up there. And then hopefully we can rescue some of that that other eyeball over there. There it is. You can just see I'm adding extra anchor points to give me more control. And I'd say that that's looking, I know it doesn't look good yet, but we haven't done the color yet. So as far as contrast goes, I think we're getting pretty close. Alright, so first step complete. Let's press OK. Next thing I want to do is add a mask tool, or the mask effect. So if we go to the mask, drop that on top of Only Subway, double click this. Now this time, remember, we're not actually trying to limit an effect, and we're not looking for skin tones to affect solely, so it's a much easier job, but which also means we don't need to put the mask above the rest of our filters. Now what I'm going to do here is just place a couple of masks in my shot, and I'm going to use big ones. And I'm going to feather the hell out of them. So put one there and maybe one here. And if we soften the edges by just clicking the soft edge tick box and then click both sides of the mask, I'm going to soften that by like 700 pixels. And I'm going to put a filter on the inside of that. Now the inside filter I choose will be, you guessed it, three-way color corrector. So now we can open the for that, and we can slide these around. So straight away what we can see, if I slide blue into this shot, yeah, we're getting blue everywhere. Pretty cool. But what we want to do is match that Denzel shot. So what we might have to do is, so we can see what we're doing, is we need to arrange our filters. You see, if I had two monitors, I wasn't working off a laptop, I'd be able to see what I'm doing. But if we do it like this, okay, and then we open up our filter and bring it down here, there we go. Alright, so now we can see what we're doing. And okay, so let's slide this around. Straight away I want to slide into that sort of fluorescent greeny blue there. So let's try and find that color. Okay, it's not bad. And you can see though his face is going green, so that means my masks are either too feathered or too close to his skin. So we're going to have to fix that in a second. But we'll get there. We will get there. I'm just going to up the saturation of that. You can see it's very saturated over here. Actually, the whole image is very saturated. And we could also up saturation of our shadows as well. Okay, so now let's try and fix his skin. So let's go back to our mask tool. And what we could do is just sort of move this over a bit just to rescue some of his skin. We're going to choose a filter on the outside of the mask. So on the inside of the mask we have changed the color to that green that you can see here, that greeny blue. And on the outside of the mask, which is his skin and everything in this area here, we're going to add the same filter. But this time we're going to push warmth into it. So we'll go color correction, three-way color corrector, and we'll set that up. And just extremely push warmth into it. Okay, so straight away, we're getting pretty close already. We're getting pretty close. This would actually be a cool look for a film, I reckon. It would be awesome. Alright, so we're getting there, Let's press OK. We have our skin sorted out. We're looking close. But I think these big green masks need to come closer. What happens if I push it over his face? Okay, seeing green there. What about just an edge? You can see here on Denzel's eye we have a bit of green. Even though he has a highlight there, we don't have that luxury. But let's just see what we can get. I just want something a little nicer. It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so finally, now we have our color sorted out. We have our color tones matching, skin tones looking pretty good. One thing I noticed with this Denzel shot is it's quite noisy. There's a lot of grain in here. Not to confuse noise with grain actually, but it actually is quite grainy. And I like that look, especially for this look. It looks awesome. And if you can look at my shot, there's virtually, there's a little bit of grain in there. A little bit of grain, but let's add more. Let's try and match it. So we'll go to our effect, get our old movie, and drop that on top. Now the old movie effect has been around since EDIUS's birth. And untick all of these things except film grain. Adds 11. Don't want to interlace and we don't want to blur. Keep in mind though that the interlace filter is very powerful. Very useful tool. So now we have our grain. I think we need a little bit more. Now we're looking a little better. Possibly even more. Okay, so now we're looking. Yeah. So now we've got this look, this very, very stylized look that, you know, it's been achieved with 3 simple filters. And yeah, so I just wanted to show you that. So go and download a movie poster from Google, or even your favorite film, just have a look how it's graded and try and find some stills and see what you can do to sort of bring that color look to life in your own editing software at home. It's yeah, it's really fun. So next up, we're going to get into what I'm going to do is try and take on some of the leading color correction software in the world, and one of those is DaVinci Resolve. I was lucky enough to play with one of the $30,000 DaVinci Resolve suites at SMPTE 2011 this year, and it was awesome. Like, it was really awesome, and mostly it was awesome because of that control system that they have and the finesse that I could add to each grade that I was doing. But then what I thought is, when I got back to EDIUS and I got back to my laptop, I thought, well, I can do most of that stuff in EDIUS. I mean, I have qualifier windows, I have tolerance values on keys, I have, you know, primaries and secondaries, and maybe it's not laid out the same, and maybe it's not as, you know, refined and intuitive as DaVinci, but the power is still here. The power of EDIUS is ridiculous, and we're going to get into that right now. And fortunately, I've just grabbed one of the exact same clips that I was grading with DaVinci. So this is some beautiful sample footage made available on the Red User website, free for anyone to play with. And it's shot on Red MX, so it's, you know, it has a lot of latitude, and it's pretty damn awesome. It's a beautiful shot, and it's really fun to grade. So we're going to get right into that. But first of all, I'll just explain that it was an R3D file directly from Red, and I've converted it to a 3K 10-bit HQX, so that is pretty awesome. So the quality's up there, and it's a lot nicer to work with this footage than it is with the Canon 5D Mark II, let me assure you. Okay, so first thing we're going to do with this shot is, once again, jump straight into the YUV curve. Let's have a look at what we can do to rescue some of this shadow area, and we really want to make that car sing because it's virtually lost in this shadow area. Okay, so if we just push our curves around straight away, you can see that we can, in fact, bring back some of the detail over there on the road. Okay, it's looking pretty good. You should be an expert at curves by now, so I'm not really going to explain what I'm doing, I'm just going to do it. You can see what I'm doing now is, and there I go, explaining what I'm doing. You can see what I'm doing now is I'm actually playing with the hills in the background. Don't you love curves? Don't you love that freedom? And then our shadow areas, we can boost up so we can actually see the car, crush some of the blacks. Actually, I don't want to boost the shadows too much because I'm gonna track that car and really make him sing with a secondary window. Alright, so let's have a look at the before and after. So we've got a much nicer contrast happening there, and we can see more of the car. Great. Next step is I want to really make that car sing, so I'm going to drop on a mask. Actually, before I do the mask, there's a few other things I want to fix up in this image. First of all, whenever you look at an image, whenever you're looking at footage and you're grading it, look for what's the first thing your eye goes to. Now, before we put that YUV curve on there, the first thing your eye goes to is the brightest thing in the image, usually. And that's these hills, these distracting, nicely exposed hills, and then you have this awesome car that's underexposed. So we need to combat that a little bit, and we've done that by, you know, bringing back some highlights and some detail in our shadows, so our car sings a little more. But we've also increased brightness in our hills, and it's a little much. I think it's a little bit too much. And also the sky is probably a little bit bright. You know, let's pretend this is a car ad. So before we fix up the sky and track the car with masks, what I want to do is try and fix the brightness of these hills and just tone them down a little bit. Now the way we're going to do that is use our good friend chrominance and drop that on top there. So if we click on show key and then click on the hills, you can see straight away that we've pulled, you know, quite a nice key. And you can also see that this footage is a lot more friendly than the 5D Mark II. There's a hell of a lot less artifacts. It's a much nicer key that we can pull. So straight away we've already chosen our hills, the brightness of our hills, and it's looking pretty good. I just want to refine that a little bit. I actually don't want the car and the road to be selected at all. So I'm going to try and get rid of that, which we're doing quite well already. Let's play with the range here and pull that down as well. So straight away we've made quite a very nice selection here, and now we can go back to our effect tab, go to the inside filter, and we're going to use a YUV curve. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go a step further, because whenever we use this chrominance filter, we are limited to having one filter inside of that key. So here's our key. Everything that's white is going to be affected. Now, technically speaking, we have the option to put one filter in here. So if I wanted to adjust the brightness of this image, of that key, then I could use, say, a YUV curve. Or if I wanted to adjust the color of that key, the keyed area, then I maybe would use my three-way color corrector as I normally do. But what if I wanted to use both? What if I wanted to use both a YUV curve and a three-way color corrector? Well, EDIUS supports that as well. Let's go into our filters and look for something called combine filters. This is just, there's workarounds, but EDIUS has the power. Trust me. And if I can actually find here it is, combine filters. Okay, so now we set that up. We go into combine filters and we say our first filter is going to be a YUV curve, and our second filter is going to be a three-way color corrector. And let's set up the YUV curve first. Now, if we have a look at what's happening, we're only affecting the hills, which is awesome, and our headlights here, which we're going to fix that later though, so don't worry about that. So the reason we did this was because I thought that the hills were too bright. So I'm going to bring the brightness of the hills down just by grabbing my top white point there and dragging that down, and maybe just lowering the midtones as well. I still want to keep a little bit of contrast in the hills though. I don't want it to look flat. I just want it to, you know, not pop as much. And now if we have a look at the before and after, it's a subtle difference, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely going to help us draw attention to the car instead of the hills first. Okay, so there's our hills. You know what? It's still too bright. I'm going to bring them down even more. Being careful not to get that ugly look. You can see if I pushed it there, that we're getting funny luminance. You know, we're making, yeah, it looks ugly. You know what I mean. So we still want to keep it looking realistic, but we just don't want it too bright. Okay, so before and after, much nicer. I mean, look at the power of EDIUS. We've just selected that whole luminance range with a beautiful key. It's too easy. Too easy. Okay, so there's our luminance, our brightness fixed. Let's go to the three-way color corrector. And I just want to make sure that we put a bit of warmth back in there because we've lost it a little bit. And I don't want this image to look desaturated. And if we push these around a little bit, we have added back some color. It's quite subtle, but it's definitely back. It's definitely back. Alright. You know, I'm just going to add a bit of warmth into the highlights as well. Okay, so now, when we could add more filters in there if we like, it's infinite actually, we could add another combined filters in here as well. So there's no real limit, there's no excuses. So there's our hills dealt with a beautiful key. Well done, EDIUS. Alright, next up we're going to grab a mask and we're going to fix up that sky. So we're going to use two methods to do that. One of them will be the mask just to select that top region. So if we zoom out here to 25%, grab our square mask tool and put that, say, there. Now we don't have to conform the shape of our mask, we can just unconform it here with this little button. So if it's conformed, it'll always stay, the aspect ratio will stay, but if we unconform it, we can turn it into any shape we like. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger than I need to because I am going to feather this mask. And we're going to feather it by, say, 300 pixels on both sides of the mask. And then inside the mask, we're going to place a YUV curve. Actually, you know what? That's not true. Inside the mask, I'm going to place... I want to be able to key that sky as well. So I'm going to use... Let's just go back to chrominance. It's great. Great filter. Same deal. Show key, click the sky. Straight away, we've got a key. Look at that. It's too easy. It's just too easy. So we'll turn the key off so we can actually see what we're doing. And we're going to soften the edge of that by like 2 pixels. If we have a look at the key, what that's actually doing, you can see over here what it's doing. So if we soften it, actually we don't want to soften it because we have such fine detail here in the power lines that, yeah, softening it will make it look funny. It'll give it an edge. We don't want an edge. So we actually don't need to soften it. That key is very nice. So we'll go to the inside filter and we want to use a YUV curve because I want to bring the brightness of that down. And actually before we do that we need to turn our key off. So go back to YUV curve, set that up. And if I just pull that down straight away you can see, although we're having some problems here, but we can fix that. So it's just a matter of refining our key. But what I want to do is just add a gradient to that sky. Just to help draw the viewer down so we can have a look at the before and after there. But there are some issues here with our key. You can see that the key's selecting some of these trees and there's quite an edge here on our power lines. So what we need to do is go back to our key and now that our filter's on there we don't have to view the key, we can actually view the effect. So what we can do is go to the key color. Actually let's leave the color, I think the color's fine. If we play with this range slider you can see straight away that's fixed our problem. See, there's the problem here. We have this glowing edge. We don't want that. So we can push the range even further to get rid of that. And you can see what happens if I push that to extreme. What's actually happening is my YUV curve is going all the way out here. If we look at the key, if I extreme the range, it's actually going past blue and it's starting to select green. It's starting to select the power lines, starting to select the hills. So what's actually happening is we're not really using the key as it should be used. But what we can do is just find a middle path here. So wait till we just stop seeing that glowing ugly edge, which is about there. That's looking pretty good. And now we can press OK, and finally we can actually just move this up a little bit so we get a nice gradient there. And yep, we might just have to keyframe that as well. Let's have a look at our shot. And this is easy done. Remember, we did it with the skin tone section. So we click shape, enable keyframes, turn keyframes on for these properties, start there, move forward in a few chunks, make sure that our mask stays over our sky, which it is. It's a pretty easy shot to key. There's not there's not much movement going on. And we can expand the shape of that too. Okay, and then if you want, just go back in between and really refine that mask movement. Not really necessary in this shot, but whatever. Okay, so there we go. Sky fixed. Beautiful. Now you might actually see that I've got one pixel up here that looks quite bright, one row of pixels. And that's because if we have a look at the footage's properties, we go to the layout properties and we slide down to stretch. It's actually saying that our image is only 50% of its maximum size, and that's true because this is 3K footage and we're only in a 1080p project. So what I can do is actually make that, bring that up. We're not losing any resolution at this stage. Bring that up, and now we've cropped our image successfully to fit within our 1080p screen size. And then we don't have that ugly pixel at the top of the screen. Alright, so it's looking pretty good. We've got our contrast done. We've got our background sorted. We've got our sky sorted. And next up, what I want to do is make that car look hot. So what we want to do is add another mask. And let's double click that. Let's go to the beginning of our shot. Grab an oval and draw it around our car. You know what, I'm going to do something a little bit different to an oval, just because I haven't covered this yet. If we go edit shape, what we can do now is actually play with these vertices, because I don't want an oval, so to speak. I want something like that. It's going to give us more control, and I'll show you where an oval was going to ruin that for us. So what we want to do is keyframe this shot. So once again, we need to go to select object this time because we're not editing the vertices just yet. We'll move that around, scale it up a little bit, jump forward in time, shrink that down a little. Actually, we want to keep it a little bigger than the car because I'm going to feather it as well. I'm going to soften it, sorry. And okay, so looks like our shape is doing us justice. We don't really need to change it at this stage. Just some making it bigger is going to help. And we're almost there, we're almost there. Alright, so let's just check these intermediate frames. Looking pretty good. It's just so easy to do, so quick. Alright, so there we have our car tracked. So next we want to soften the edge of that mask, both sides by say 150 pixels. And you'll be able to see what range of pixels to soften it by when you add an effect. You'll see the soft edge and how big you need it. So I just know from this shot that I think 150 pixels should work. So we're going to place a filter inside here, and once again we're going to use, we could use 3-way color corrector, but I'm just going to keep using this chrominance because it works so well. So what we want to do is select the luminance range of this car, because even though we've created a mask around the car, we want to refine that selection even further, just like we've been doing with the skin tones and everything before. So what we're going to do is click on the car, and straight away we have something usable. Just needs to be increased by range, and yeah, okay, it's looking pretty good. Now be careful because we don't want to actually select the road, that's the whole idea. Now we have a pretty clean looking key, So we can turn off the show key and we can go to our effect, and we're just going to go for our YUV curve. So let's do that. And let's have a look at what's happening here. So if we push that up, look what's happening already. We add some contrast and, you know, really brighten the car up. I mean, look at the difference. There's the original shot, dull and boring, and look at this clean, crispy car just coming into shot. And this is, you know, this is what you do on a DaVinci Resolve. This is actually what demo showed me how to do. And you know what? We can do this at EDIUS. We can do this at home. And we can do it with real-time performance for a lot less. Just saying. We also want to add some color to this shot, so it's going to add a contrast curve to my little chrominance channel. And we could also tint the car slightly if we wanted to. Yeah, just give it a bit of a warmer tint so it's not so blue. Alright, and if we have a look at the before and after, you can see there that we have successfully warmed and brightened our car. Actually, the performance I'm getting here is pretty damn amazing. This is a laptop we're working off, people, a laptop. And what do we have? A YV curve, a chrominance filter with 2 filters in it, a mask with another 2 filters in it, and another mask with another 2 filters in it. So you can see here I really have controlled every element of this shot that I want. And finally I'm going to add, you know what, I'm just going to go back to my YUV curve from the beginning. And let's see what we can do with it and see, I think I want that road to be a little bit brighter. Bring my highlights down a little bit. Yeah, I really like the look of that road. I don't want it to disappear. Be careful about my hills in the background though. And let's have a look at the before and after. What a difference, huh? What a cool difference. So this is really exciting stuff for me. Exciting because I actually don't have to leave my editor. So I can do my edit, do my grade, finish my product all in the same piece of software and all with ease. And that's what I love about EDIUS. So obviously, like, I could keep going with this. You know what? Why not? Let's just add some noise. I've got a preset noise at value of 6 here, which is just an old movie filter with everything unticked like we did before. I'm gonna add about 8. Press OK, and I'm gonna put that on top. See what happens. See the difference that makes? It's too noisy now. If we put that on bottom, it's just subtle. So play around with the order of filters and where they lie, because they all make a difference. I think finally I'm going to add one more final look to this, just with a 3-way color corrector. And I just want to make everything a little bit blue. And you know how I said I didn't want to desaturate it before? Well, I kind of do. I'm going to push my shadows into blue especially. Now we're talking. And midtones into blue as well. Highlights into yellow. And that's looking pretty hot. I mean, there's the original there. There's the blue grade here. Actually, you know what? I'm not real happy with that. We can increase contrast. Really crush those blacks. That's looking better. That's looking better. And you know what? We could go one step further. I mean, I could go on this all day. But what we could do is keep the car sharp and add a blur to everything else. So you know what? Let's just do that for the sake of it. So let's have a look. There's our sky. Here's our car. So if we just drag that same filter back onto our clip, now we have the same mask properties that we had before. So we've got a duplicate of that. But this time what I want to do is turn the inside filter off. We actually don't need that because we already have it up here. I'm going to turn the outside filter on, and I'm going to go in here, go to video filters, and there's a filter called smooth blur. We'll click that, and if we set up smooth blur, it's already actually given us a value, but a value of 5. You can see if I max it out, then we've blurred everything drastically. But this is just another technique to really get that car to be the first, you know, the real important part of this shot, the part that you're going to look at. So if we just keep that value at say 5 or even 4, now we have another track matte that really just pushes the viewer straight to the car, and everything else has been a little bit more blurred. Okay, so I am going to stop there because the more I look at it, the more I want to change. We could just keep going. The power is infinite. EDIUS has the potential to really unleash your creativity and really get into these blockbuster looks, or any sort of subtle look that you have in mind. I mean, what I've showed you, the techniques that I've showed you, you can apply to any sort of creative look that you want. So with that, I'm actually going to stop rambling right now and finish this up. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.